In the previous chapter, we saw Lu Si pushing Zhou Fan to his limits by harming someone important to him. Despite Lu Xi's attempts to justify his actions, Zhou Fan's fury knew no bounds, leaving Lu Si bloodied and humiliated. As the tension in the courtyard simmered down, Zhou Fan's allies reminded Lu Ye of the dire consequences of meddling in matters of the heart. However, instead of learning from his mistakes, Lu Si's resentment deepened, silently vowing revenge against Zhou Fan. Let's begin the chapter. In a small, cramped room, Shui Ruohua and the others gathered around Chu Ching-chang, who sat cross-legged on the bed. Their faces were filled with worry as they looked at her. A faint green light flickered around her trembling body, and her face contorted with pain. Xuan Xiaoyu gnashed his teeth and muttered angrily, "Those despicable demonic cultivators! Sneak attacks." And using such heavy-handed methods, Danner couldn't hold back her frustration and shouted, "We've given Sister Ching-chang so many pills and antidotes, but nothing worked. It's unbearable!" Everyone nodded, their concern evident. But Elder Jooan raised a hand, his voice calm and reassuring. "There's no need to panic. I've inspected Ching-chang's condition. Her life isn't in any danger. Remember, this is Double Dragon Manor. No one would dare attempt murder here. However, she will have to endure considerable pain for the next few days." Xuan Xiaoyu's fists clenched as he declared, "Those demonic cultivators will pay for this. I'll make sure of it." The others murmured their agreement, anger simmering in their expressions. Just then, a voice called out from outside the room. "Young Master Elder Si Tianshang from the Sword God sect has come to visit." Xuan Xiaoyu and Elder Jooan exchanged puzzled glances. "The Sword God sect? From the first of the middle three sects? What business do they have here?" While they pondered, Chu Ching-chang slowly opened her eyes. Despite the pain etched on her face, she smiled faintly and said, "Let him in. He's an old friend from Tianyu. I'm sure he wants to see me." Xuan Xiaoyu's mood darkened instantly. "An old friend? Not another suitor, surely?" He quickly objected. "Junior Sister Ching-chang, in your current state, it's best you don't receive guests." But Elder Jooan intervened, his tone measured. "Young Master, this isn't just any visitor. The Sword God sect carries significant influence. It would be unwise to refuse them. Let him in." Though clearly annoyed, Xuan Xiaoyu reluctantly nodded. Internally, he fumed at the intrusion. Moments later, Zi Tianshang entered the room with two young women in tow. After exchanging polite greetings with Elder Jooan, his gaze landed on Chu Ching-chang. Seeing her pale face and trembling figure, he immediately bowed and said, "Edifice Lord Chu, it has been a long time." "How have you been?" Danner huffed indignantly. "How do you think she's been? Can't you see her condition?" The room fell silent, the tension palpable. Chu Ching-chang gently patted Danner's shoulder, signaling her to calm down. Xie Tianshang chuckled lightly, bowing again. "Apologies for my insensitivity. Edifice Lord Chu, I heard about the poison incident and brought a secret antidote from my sect. It should help alleviate your pain." He presented a small vial with a confident smile. Chu Ching-chang's eyes brightened, and she nodded gratefully. "Thank you, young Master Zi. Your kindness means a great deal." "There's no need for thanks," Zi Tianshang replied modestly. "We share the same homeland. It's the least I could do." Shui Ruohua took the vial and hesitated as she handed it to Chu Ching-chang. "Young Master Si, Ching-chang has already taken so many pills without any effect. Are you certain this one will work?" "It will," Zi Tianshang replied with unwavering confidence. Chu Ching-chang smiled faintly and said, "I trust it will too." She opened the vial and consumed the pill before closing her eyes to meditate. The room grew still as everyone watched anxiously. Minutes passed, then 15, and something remarkable began to unfold. Chu Ching-chang's trembling subsided. Her face regained its natural color, and the green energy surrounding her gradually dissipated. Danner's eyes widened in awe. "Young Master Si, your pill is incredible!" "It actually worked," Xie Tianshang responded with a humble smile, while Xuan Xiaoyu and Elder Jooan exchanged astonished looks. What kind of poison was this, removed so easily? "Could it be a universal antidote?" Chu Ching-chang opened her eyes, her expression serene. She chuckled softly and said, "He's still the same, always unwilling to take credit for his actions." The others blinked in confusion. "You knew?" someone asked. Chu Ching-chang nodded knowingly. "Of course. A specialized antidote like this could only come from the poisoner himself. Shui Ruohua tilted her head, puzzled. Do you mean this antidote belongs to the demon scheming sect's Lu Si? Chu Ching-chang's smile deepened. Yes, it's his. Though I imagine he wasn't too eager to hand it over. Xie Tianshang chuckled. You're spot on. When I arrived, Zhuo Fan was forcing the man to give it up, using his fists, naturally. But you know how he is. He'd never admit to doing something like this out of kindness. Chu Ching-chang's eyes softened with amusement. He hasn't changed at all. Always so stubborn behind that cold facade. I've seen it too many times before. The girls around her were bewildered. Danner couldn't help but ask, Sister Ching-chang, are you saying Zhuo Fan gave you the antidote? But wasn't he the one who scolded you so harshly during the esoteric debate? Chu Ching-chang laughed quietly. He only did that to protect me, to make me stronger. I understood his intentions. It's just how he is, cold on the surface, but caring underneath. I can't hate him for that. The room fell silent, the girls unsure how to respond. Xuan Xiaoyu's face twisted with rage. If he'd known the antidote came from Zhuo Fan, he would have stopped it immediately. The thought of them having any connection was unbearable. Xie Tianshang sighed lightly. Edifice Lord Chu, you've changed. There was a time when you were so tough and headstrong that, Zhuo Fan's arrogance used to terrify you. Danner looked intrigued. Really? Sister Ching-chang, is that true? Chu Ching-chang flicked Danner's nose playfully, silencing her. Her gaze turned distant, as if recalling a fond memory. There was a time when I desperately sought an explanation from him. But after seeing the lengths he went to for Ninger, I realized he has his own path. It's not my place to interfere. Her words trailed off, drawing puzzled glances from the others. Ninger? One of them asked curiously. Chu Ching-chang blinked, startled out of her reverie. She turned to the younger woman standing nearby. Do you know Ninger? Then, you're not from the Sword God sect, are you? Xie Tianshang stepped forward with a smile. Allow me to introduce them. This is Tianyu's princess, Yongning, and this is Yun Shuang, the holy maiden of Tianyu. They're here as your guests. Though I'd keep an eye on them, they might be your rivals. Chu Ching-chang laughed softly, glancing at the two women. You've become quite the joker, Xie Tianshang. I never thought I'd see the day. Her gaze lingered on Yun Shuang. So you're Shuanger. I've heard about you. Peony Overseer mentioned how Zhuo Fan declared in front of everyone that he wanted you. I must admit, you bear an uncanny resemblance to Ninger. Yun Shuang's face flushed with embarrassment. No, please don't say that. I was just a pawn in his plans. Nothing more. The room grew tense, the girls exchanging uneasy glances. Xuan Xiaoyu seized the moment, his voice venomous. You hear that? Zhuo Fan is nothing but a manipulative demon, using innocent girls as pawns. Ching-chang, you must see him for what he is and stop trusting him. Chu Ching-chang's gaze turned icy. Her voice was calm but firm. I know Zhuo Fan far better than you ever will. If he chooses to use me, so be it. What I fear most isn't being his pawn. It's that he'll discard me without ever finding a use for me. Her words left everyone speechless. The once prideful Ice Queen now openly declared her willingness to stand by Zhuo Fan, even as a mere tool. Xuan Xiaoyu's fury burned hotter than ever, his hatred for Zhuo Fan deepening by the second. Ching-chang, wake up! You've been taken in by that demon! Shui Ruohua's voice was sharp as she shook Chu Ching-chang, trying to snap her out of her daze. Chu Ching-chang slowly shook her head, her voice calm yet firm. Senior sister, I have been taken in, but that is because I wanted to. Shui Ruohua frowned, disbelief evident in her tone. Nonsense! How can it be logical to let yourself be bewitched like this? Chu Ching-chang let out a resigned sigh, realizing words wouldn't be enough to convince her. Instead, she turned towards Shuanger and Yongning, gesturing for the two to come closer. The hesitation on their faces was clear. After all, they saw Chu Ching-chang as a rival in love. What does she want now? Shuanger and Yongning couldn't help but exchange a nervous glance. But their doubts softened the moment Chu Ching-chang smiled at them, her expression so radiant and gentle that it could melt even the hardest of hearts. I know both of you wish to stand by his side, Chu Ching-chang began, her voice carrying a serene wisdom. But to truly do so, you must first understand him. You must also know what happened to Ninger. Yongning, hesitant but curious, spoke up. I heard from the Luo clan that Zhuo Fan saved her in the end. But she forgot about him, so he let her go. Chu Ching-chang nodded. Yes, that's true. But you only know part of the story. What you don't know is what he endured to make it happen. Her gaze grew distant as she began recounting events of the past, her tone both nostalgic and tinged with sorrow. She spoke of the Seven Houses conflict, of the cruelty Zhuo Fan had to embody to survive, and of Ninger's tragic fate. She told them of Zhuo Fan's descent into madness and despair, of the struggles that left his hair white. Every detail was laid bare, though she carefully avoided mentioning their separation or the different sects they later joined. Through it all, Chu Ching-chang wore a bittersweet smile, as if she had long made peace with the pain of those memories. I realized then, she continued softly, that this man is far from dead inside. He feels deeply, but he hides it, locks it away. His path is destined to be cruel and cold, so how could I ever be the one to burden him further? That's why I left him, to ensure he'd never have to experience that despair again. If he is safe, that's all I need to be content. Turning back to Shui Ruohua, she added with a warm smile. And now, knowing he still cares about me, I am happy. That's why I was so glad when he asked about me through senior sister. The girls listening were stunned. Zhuo Fan, a man known for his ruthless and cold demeanor, had endured such immense pain and suffering for the sake of others. The revelation of his sacrifices and his ultimate choice to let Ninger go for her own good painted him in a light they had never seen before. It was clear now why Chu Ching-chang had made her own sacrifices for him. Even though their paths were different, righteous and demonic, they shared a deep, unshakable understanding of one another. Yongning and Shuanger couldn't help but lower their heads in shame. Next to Chu Ching-chang, their own feelings for Zhuo Fan seemed shallow, even naive. What right did they have to stand beside him? Meanwhile, Jooan Xiaoyu stood quietly in the corner, his teeth clenched in frustration. The bond between Chu Ching-chang and Zhuo Fan was undeniable, built on shared experiences too deep for him to compete with. He could see it now. No matter what he did, he would never be able to make her forget about that man. Xie Tianshang, observing it all, let out a heavy sigh. I see now, he said. Chu Ching-chang doesn't cling to him because she trusts him completely. But it seems to me that Zhuo Fan is still torn. The demonic path or love, which is more important to him, this will be his final trial. I only hope he overcomes it soon and grows stronger because of it. That way I can continue following him forever. The girls raised their eyebrows at that comment, their expressions shifting. What kind of bromance is this? They thought, their faces betraying a mix of confusion and amusement. Xie Tianshang, noticing their looks, blinked in surprise. What, did I say something wrong? Outside the mystical heaven sect, in a secluded corner of the courtyard, a tall figure stood in silence. Zhuo Fan had been there for hours, watching, waiting. His only desire was to see Xie Tianshang emerge, proof that Chu Ching-chang was safe. A sudden whoosh broke the stillness, and a familiar voice, laced with the heavy scent of alcohol, reached his ears. Ha ha ha! You just can't let her go, can you? Zhuo Fan turned to see Danking Shen standing there, his ever-present smile plastered across his face. Senior, Zhuo Fan said, his tone even, why are you still here? Danking Shen chuckled. Didn't I tell you? There's no place in this world that can keep me out. I go where I please. What, do you have a problem with someone coming up behind you? Of course not, Zhuo Fan replied, though his face twitched slightly at the remark. You're free to do as you wish. Danking Shen gave him a long, appraising look before breaking into a grin. Why does love exist in this world, I wonder? To teach people about the meaning of life? Kid, if you want that girl, just go get her. What's there to be conflicted about? Zhuo Fan sighed, shaking his head. Senior, you know as well as I do. This isn't my path. Danking Shen nodded thoughtfully. True enough. But that just means you're fickle. You've already got 2 girls and now you're after a 3rd? What about all the poor bachelors out there? Leave some for them. Senior, please don't joke about this, Zhuo Fan replied, his voice tinged with exasperation. You know what I mean. I walk the demonic path, a road of cruelty and emotionless resolve. If I let emotions take hold of me, it will only bring harm, to me and especially to her. So why even bother? The past has already proven this truth. Danking Shen studied him for a moment before speaking again. If that's the case, then why are you standing here? If you're truly dead inside, kill all emotions and move on. Spying on a girl's window like this helps neither of you. Zhuo Fan sighed deeply. I know you're right, but after everything that has happened, I can't let go. I've never owed anyone before in my life. Yet now I owe her, and I don't know how to repay it. Danking Shen's expression turned serious. A strange girl indeed to trap herself for your sake. I see now why you regard her so deeply. That's a heavy debt you carry. And the only way to repay it, as I see it, is to give her your heart and soul. Senior, I'm a demonic cultivator, Jooan protested. Yeah, dead and cruel path. I've heard it all before. Danking Shen waved him off dismissively. Then his tone grew solemn. Listen, kid. All paths, demonic, righteous, or otherwise, lead to the Tao. Even on the cruelest road, you can't discard emotions without first feeling them. How else can you let go of something you never had?